Well, because most of the American news media cannot deal with the possibility that everyone in the Trump White House is lying to them most of the time or even all of the time, they reported as fact that Donald Trump left Canada in the middle of the night last night and flew all night from Alberta back to Washington, D.C., quote, to deal with the rapidly escalating conflict between Iran and Israel. The New York Times reported that as fact. The reason Donald Trump left Canada in the middle of the night was to deal with the war between Israel and Iran. The New York Times could have said, White House officials say that that's the reason Donald Trump left Canada in the middle of the night. And that would be a big difference from just stating it as a fact. And this is not just a semantic point. Donald Trump is a pathological liar who told over 30,000 documented lies in his first presidency, and everyone working for Donald Trump in the White House is there because Donald Trump knows that they are all willing, ready, and eager to lie for him about anything, including why he left Canada in the middle of the night. Because we know Donald Trump has no idea what to do about the new war in the Middle East. We don't know. We really don't know why he left Canada. It might have been for the reason that the New York Times thinks is a fact. And it doesn't really make any difference what time zone Donald Trump's in or what countries he's in when he's trying to do something he doesn't know how to do, like deal with the situation in the Middle East. Donald Trump has absolutely no mental capacity whatsoever to deal with a situation like this. And Donald Trump is the laziest person ever elected to the presidency. And I'm still willing to grant that it's a possibility that Donald Trump left Canada for the reason the New York Times takes to be fact. But it is an interesting coincidence that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky arrived in Canada right after Donald Trump left. And Donald Trump knew exactly when President Zelensky was arriving. President Zelensky went to Canada to ask the G7 allies for more help fighting Vladimir Putin, who Donald Trump called a genius when Vladimir Putin launched his war on Ukraine. And Donald Trump, he didn't have to hear a word from President Zelensky because he left Canada in the middle of the night. Donald Trump has all but publicly admitted that he has no idea what to do about Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine, except to, in effect, encourage Vladimir Putin to just hang on long enough and the United States will just abandon Ukraine. Meetings in the Situation Room in the White House are usually secret. No one had any idea that there was a meeting in the Situation Room in the White House when President Obama and his national security team were tracking the Navy SEALs who were on their way to capture or kill, and it turned out kill, Osama bin Laden. But today, while there was a meeting reportedly going on in the Situation Room, the Trump White House was telling the world that Donald Trump was having a top secret meeting in the Situation Room about the situation in the Middle East. This is the same president who ignores the president's daily brief that is about situations like this as they develop, including all of the president's daily briefs that lead up to situations like this. And those daily briefs are something that every other president has consumed in full. On his flight back from Canada, Donald Trump tried to compete with Utah's Republican Senator Mike Lee for the meanest reaction to the assassination of a Minnesota state legislator and her husband, and the attempted assassination of another Minnesota state legislator and his wife. Donald Trump was asked if he has called the governor of Minnesota, as is customary for every previous president of either party in situations like this since the invention of the telephone.
I could be nice and cold, but why waste time?
That's another Trump lie. He could not be nice. And he has proved himself incapable of being nice by not making that phone call, along with hundreds of other not nice things he does in a typical week. We have never had a smaller mind in the White House than Donald Trump's. We've never had a more petty mind in the White House than Donald Trump's. And as far as Donald Trump wasting time, proclaims, his Senate website proudly proclaims that he is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and served a 2-year mission for the church in the Texas Rio Grande Valley. There is nothing in Mike Lee's religion that told him to guess about the shooter's politics. Mike Lee did not come close to living Mormon ideals in his Twitter madness about these murders and attempted murders. During the weekend manhunt for the suspect in this murder and attempted murder case, Mike Lee decided to blame the Democratic governor of Minnesota for the murder and attempted murder of Democratic state officials by calling it, quote, nightmare on Wall Street. He also posted, quote, this is what happens when Marxists don't get their way. And today, 4 days later, Mike Lee deleted those tweets after Minnesota's senior senator, Amy Klobuchar, complained to him directly about his tweets. But Mike Lee, who has obviously not turned to religion for guidance in this situation, refused to apologize to anyone for any of his tweets.
I don't think this is a person who's used to being confronted. I don't think he's somebody who's used to being challenged, and I think he didn't quite know what to do. Approached him from a position of respect and wanting him to understand what I thought, and he didn't have that much to say.
He didn't even apologize to you in that interaction?
He said, how mmany times have we heard the words that go something like, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, or I'm sorry if you didn't understand what that's not, in my mind, taking accountability or responsibility for your actions. And so I can't paraphrase exactly what he said, but that was the gist of it.
Mike Lee is a disgrace. He is a disgrace to the Senate. He is a disgrace to Utah. He owes the voters of Utah who sent him to the Senate an apology for his ugly tweets, his perverse tweets. He owes the nation an apology. He owes Minnesota an apology. He owes them an apology for tweeting 100 times a day, an apology for not doing his job. Mike Lee is not up for re-election until 2028, so he is very likely to continue handling this situation in the most cowardly possible way, which is running away from reporters, forcing his staff to hold up the stuff they're carrying to try to block the camera's view of Mike Lee.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, who recently met with former President Donald Trump in Canada, expressed his support on Tuesday for Israel's recent military actions against Iran. Speaking to Germany's ZDF broadcaster during the summit, Merz remarked, Israel is doing the dirty work for all of us. We are also affected by this regime. He added that the Iranian leadership had brought death and destruction to the world. In recent days, Israel has targeted multiple Iranian nuclear facilities, with the most significant strike aimed at the Fordo enrichment plant, a fortified underground site buried deep within a mountain. According to U.S. officials, attacking such a hardened facility would require bunker-busting bombs such as the GBU-57, a 15-ton weapon also known as the Massive Ordnance Penetrator, MOP. The bomb is delivered by the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber, a bat-winged aircraft based at Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, capable of global missions with the help of aerial refueling. Should the U.S. choose to expand its involvement, it has other options available, including fighter jets already stationed in the region and B-52 bombers. Recently, the Pentagon temporarily relocated some of these aircraft to Diego Garcia, a joint U.S.-British military base in the Indian Ocean. Trump's recent assertion that the U.S. now controls the skies over Iran may suggest that U.S. intelligence has assessed that Israeli strikes have significantly weakened Iran's air defenses. While the U.S. military had not launched any direct strikes on Iran as of Tuesday afternoon, defense officials confirmed that American forces had assisted Israel in intercepting incoming Iranian munitions using Navy destroyers and fighter jets. General Michael Eric Kurilla, the top U.S. commander in the Middle East, told the House Armed Services Committee last week that he has presented President Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth with a wide range of military options. Kurilla stated that the U.S. currently stands at a strategic window of opportunity to safeguard its interests in the region, particularly in preventing Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. Experts estimate that while Iran could produce enough highly enriched uranium for a bomb in a week, it would take several months to a year to weaponize it. While Merz voiced clear support for Israel's actions, other leaders at the summit expressed more cautious or dissenting views. French President Emmanuel Macron emphasized the need for diplomacy, saying, "Only a ceasefire and ongoing negotiations can bring a lasting solution. People are sovereign, they change their leaders themselves." Past attempts at regime change through military intervention have proven to be strategic mistakes. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said that European foreign ministers who met virtually for an emergency session Tuesday morning were united in calling for de-escalation. If the US gets directly involved, it risks dragging the region into a much broader conflict. That serves no one's interests, Kallas warned. In other regional responses, Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati urged calm during phone calls with both the Iraqi leadership and U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff. Qatar's foreign ministry spokesman Majed al-Ansari stated that his government, along with others in the region, is working to prevent further escalation and avoid the dangerous consequences of continued conflict.